Right now, I want to talk a little bit with Mark Meckler. Mark is with the head of the Convention of States, which is really a grassroots organization, nonprofit, not affiliated with any political party, but really under Article 5 of the Constitution, Mark, somehow we, the people, might be able to get a little bit of the government out of the government and the people back into it. How you doing, Mark? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you, and I agree exactly with what you just said.
One of the things under the Constitution, everybody, Article 5, that gives the power to call a convention of states to propose different amendments to the Constitution. Mark, when we talk about the Convention of States, some of us feel that, wow, be careful of this one because of all the different powers that it be. But you guys are sort of laser focusing certain areas under the Convention of States that's ongoing right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. Look, this is not something that's not in the Constitution. It is in the Constitution, and we have the power to call a convention for a specific purpose. In fact, it's really the only way you can do it. We've proposed 3 subject matter areas. The convention can discuss anything that would impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, like a balanced budget amendment, anything that would impose term limits, not just on Congress, but on staffers, bureaucrats, and I think importantly on federal judges. And then I think going to the heart of the matter, anything that would limit the scope, the power, and jurisdiction of the federal government. For example, getting the federal government out of education.
Okay. Those 3 things, everyone, sound to me like no-brainers. Motherhood and apple pie. Term limits, one of my biggest pains in my neck. This Convention of States on a federal level and local level and others too. Term limits. Fiscal responsibility, balanced budget. My God, Mark, how could we not want something like that? And really, it's already there. They're just not doing their job. And as you said, returning power to the states like education, etc. And as it was intended to be, I think, originally, those are 3 different aspects of the Convention of States, what you're looking at, that I'm all in favor of. How does all this thing work, Mark?
Well, structurally, the way it works is it takes 34 states, 2/3 of the states, according to the Constitution, to call a convention. So we've organized all over the country. We're organized in all 50 states. Over 1 million people, or 4 million people, are engaged right now. We've got a lot of people engaged in Massachusetts. Over 12,200 have signed the petition there already. And so 34 states have to call. They do that when each house of their state legislature passes a resolution. No governor's signature required. So far, 15 states have done that, so we're almost halfway there.
How long have you been working on it?
About 5.5 years now, and it's a slow, arduous process because that's how the founders intended it to be. They didn't want us to be able to amend the Constitution easily. They wanted us to have to get an incredibly large consensus across the majority of the country to even get in convention and talk about it.
How does if you're signing people up, let's just say in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it takes 34 states to call the convention. You got 15 ready to rock and roll now. You still got, let's just say for the hell of it, 20 more states you need. Massachusetts being one of them. How do we get our Senate and our House to seriously look at something like this, a convention of states, and getting Massachusetts involved?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is for folks on the ground to get involved, your listeners, because we've already filed, and our application is in committee, awaiting a hearing there. It's Bill 3213 filed by Representative Hill. That's assigned to the Joint Veterans and Federal Affairs Committee. So we're already moving in Massachusetts. The big thing is getting people involved. We've got a great state director there. His name is Michael Arnold, and he's building a volunteer team right now. What we really need people in Massachusetts to do is to go to the website, which is conventionofstates.com, click on the Take Action tab, and sign up to get involved, because the way we're going to make it happen is by spreading the word to regular folks like you and me there in Massachusetts, and they're going to contact their legislators. They're maybe going to go down to the legislature and lobby a little bit like we're supposed to do as citizens. That's how we're going to make it happen in Massachusetts.
Gotcha. Okay. So what we got to do is we got to look at people in Massachusetts that have a brain. The problem, Mark, in Massachusetts, we are so darn blue. To try to find someone that's got a brain is hard to find. Okay.
Well, but I want to clarify. Look, and you said this at the very beginning. I think it's important. It's not partisan.
No.
The question for folks in Massachusetts is: do you think people at home should decide, or do you think Washington D.C. should decide for you? And I can tell you, whether you ask a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or conservative, most folks would prefer that the decisions are made in Massachusetts. This rings true whether we're in California or New York or Oklahoma or Texas or Massachusetts. folks that want to make decisions at home. The real question at the heart of Convention of States is who decides.
Yeah.
Do we let bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. decide for us? They've taken the power to do that. Congress has given them the power. The courts have given them the power. Are we going to take it back? Are we going to make decisions at home? I think folks in Massachusetts are better off deciding for themselves than having bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. decide for them.
I agree. And let me ask you a question. If the Convention of States, if you're looking at three different areas, I see in a nonpartisan way, Mark, I see different representatives, different senators here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that may go along with one or two of the three, but not all three. Is that possible that the Convention of States would would hopefully get one or two out of the three to get that as an amendment under the Constitution?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, in order to get the resolution passed, you have to say we're going to go to convention, we're going to talk about all these things. But in convention, there's no guarantee anything comes out of convention.
Right.
And this is really important that people understand. Some people say the convention's scary, who knows what will happen. Well, here's the reality. It's just a meeting for making suggestions. At the end of convention, hopefully the convention comes up with some amendments that they suggest. Those amendments then have to go out to the states for ratification. It takes 38 states, or three-quarters of all states, to ratify. It's an incredibly high bar, very difficult. So you can imagine the only things that will get ratified are things that are accepted by and supported by the vast majority of Americans. Things like term limits supported by 85%, and the balanced budget amendment supported by 74%. These are the kinds of things that are absolutely going to come out of convention and get ratified.
And I think that's what scares politicians, Mark, more than anything else.
I'm serious. I agree with you.
The 85% of the people want term limits. About 105% of those in position right now don't want term limits. I mean, they want to leave the way it is. That's their power base. That's their money base. And that's what they live for. So it's going to be a very difficult thing, I see.
Well, here's the good argument for term limits for folks in the state legislature, and I'm not being facetious when I say this. We need new blood in Washington, D.C. We need new ideas. We need the best and the brightest from the states to go to Washington, D.C. for a limited amount of time to give their input on what ought to be done there. And the only way we're going to make that happen is term limits. The founders actually didn't have term limits, but they believed in what they called rotation in office. So they wanted new people coming in because they wanted people then to have to go home and live under the laws that they passed. And so what term limits do is they give your state representatives a chance to get to Washington, D.C., because right now most of them are never going to make it there, not enough seats to open up. This way there's a lot of room. There's always turnover in Washington, D.C. A lot of your state folks are going to end up making it to D.C.
Yeah. Well, good luck. I'm on board with this one, Mark. I want you to keep us informed of what's going on, and every once in a while dig me a little bit so I can get people more involved by heading over to conventionofstates.com and getting people involved on both the liberal and the conservative and independents and everybody else involved to see if we can't do something about taking more control of our own destiny on a state's basis rather than the federal government.
Absolutely. We'll keep you in the loop.
All right, Mark Meckler, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Good luck.
Thank you.
You take care. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, but I think they're on the right track. I'll hang on to the Convention of State stuff, and we'll ask every once in a while. We'll ask for your input on it and how you feel about what's going on. I got to take a quick break. I'll be back. Meantime, let's head up to Plymouth. Steve, good morning. You're on XTK. How you doing, Steve?
Well, I'm doing great. Hate to sound a little cynical, but what do you think the chances are of this legislature in Massachusetts passing anything like this? So the follow-up question to that is, can we do this with a ballot initiative and let the people themselves vote on whether the state should join the Convention of States? Because the hacks in the legislature who love to hand out favors and lifetime jobs and generous retirement packages for everybody are just not going to be interested.
No, I happen to agree with you. As I said to Mark, I said, good luck in this blue of blue states for anybody to even think of term limits or, having a balanced budget or even getting it out on time. Never mind.
Look how long it took us to get to 5%. I mean, people voted on that 20 years ago. People voted to have the legislature pay limited to the median income of the state, and then they come back crying, "Oh, we haven't had a pay increase in a year." Well, that's because the people voted on it, and you took the job knowing that condition, but they kind of steamrolled over that.
You know, one of the things I like about what they're doing, though, Steve, and even though they might be spitting into the wind, is the fact they do need 34 out of the 50 states to sign in.
Right.
And I want people in Massachusetts, and I think your point is well taken about a ballot initiative or anything, but people in Massachusetts, left, right, middle, I don't care who you are, to take a look at these items that seem to me to be common sense items and see if we can't get anywhere near the amount of support that we would need in Massachusetts to go forward to become one of the 34 necessary states to call a convention. I really do want to talk about it, and this is one of the ways of talking about it, Steve, without hitting specifically someone over the head with "get the hell out! You've been in here too long." You know?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to.
Oh, I don't think so either. I think we'll probably have to do it with a ballot initiative if there's any hope in Massachusetts of getting them on board. Well, you know what the funny thing is? The funny thing is about it. I understand that that some of our state reps or state senators don't want term limits because they quote unquote feel like, well, if I did a good job for 12 years as a state rep, you know, why can't I do another good 12 years as a state senator? You know. Unfortunately, not many of them think like State Representative Randy Hunt does when he said, "I've been in here 10 years. I never planned on being here for the rest of my life. It's time to move on, give someone else a shot and for representing the district, and it's time for me to move on." I wish that more people thought like Randy Hunt does. Yep, including the members of the deep state.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree.
And the lobbyists.
Hey, Steve, thanks for the call.
Have a good one.
We'll be in touch. Good luck. I mean, we'll keep on this a little bit, but check it out if you'd like to. conventionofstates.com. I'm not suggesting that we're going to be one of the 34 that get involved with this, but why not give it a try? Why not shake somebody up a little bit and say, why wouldn't you consider at least talking about this? Because you know that if 85% of the people within the Commonwealth or anywhere want term limits, why wouldn't you at least talk about it? I mean, is it a starting point? Maybe. Is it a non-starter? Maybe. All right. But there's a lot out there, and I don't want to water it down, but at the same time, I want to see if we got a shot. Where are we going to go? Michael Arnold, good morning. You're on XTK. How you doing, sir?
Good, Ed. How are you this morning?
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to point out this isn't for our state legislators. This is for the federal level legislators. When we're talking term limit, like we're not talking about putting term limits on someone like Julian Steer.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the federal level. That's right.
Right. So we don't want to confuse the issues because we're not trying to term limit our state representatives. We're trying to term limit the ones that are in the federal level.
My apologies. I was wrong on that. That's right. Federal level. Let's talk about Congressman Keating. Let's talk about Senators Malarkey and Warren and all the other congressmen out there on a federal level term limits. Right.
And if we term limit those people out, people like Julian can, when they have a great idea, they can represent us in Washington. That's kind of what I think Mr. Meckler was saying a little while ago. I was listening to him on your interview.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of direction we're trying to go with that.
Well, maybe we can get people involved even more so now because it's not going to affect all our state reps or state senators. They can continue to pad it for as long as they want to.
Yeah, we'll put more power in our local representatives' hands than at the federal level. That's really what we're supposed to be doing, I believe.
No, you're right, and I apologize, Michael, because you're absolutely right about that. This is a federal level thing, and it's talking about getting the power back to the states as opposed to the centralized federal government. You're right.
Go to conventionofstates.com, press the button, sign the petition. More importantly, get 10 of your friends to do the same. When you sign the petition, then that sends a letter to your state legislator. You go on the list in their district as a supporter. We deliver those lists to the state legislators. It means something to them.